This is the MBA Wire with Mateo Chang, episode 13. Did you know that talking to yourself actually makes you smarter? Studies show. What?
Inspirational MBA talk with successful alumni to motivate you during your application run. We go behind the scenes of every story, talk business, and show you why it's worthwhile to never give up on your MBA dream. And now, here's your host with the most, Mateo Chang.
What's up, everyone? How y'all doing? Before we get started with this episode, I just want to give a few shout-outs here. Saurabh Garg from India, thanks for reaching out to one of our interviewees. I hope I did not sabotage your name. Andrea Beer from Moscow, Russia, thanks so much. I spoke with you over email. Helena Goys from the Federal University of Sergipe. How you doing? Thanks so much for your feedback as well. And I just wanted to say hi to all the listeners from France, South Korea, and Sweden. This is awesome. I'm so glad that we are slowly but surely going international with this MBA Wire initiative. All right, guys. That's it for now. I hope you enjoy this next episode. What's up, citizens of the Wire? Welcome back to yet another fantastic episode of the MBA Wire. Today, I'm very happy and excited to have as our guest Andrea Beer, who is currently a Kellogg student. Andrea Beer is also a frequent blogger on Fundação Estudar, which is a nonprofit organization to help students in Brazil study abroad at top schools internationally. And she has worked in public relations, and she's here with us today to really talk about her MBA journey and her experience. Andrea, thank you so much for being part of this project, this initiative. I've given our listeners a brief introduction about you. Why don't you go ahead and add something to that so we can get to know you better?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with your listeners a little bit about my experience at Kellogg. I think an interesting fact about myself that I also used as a story for one of my essays, that very difficult essays that we have to write for business school, is that I was raised in a farm. Right in the middle of Brazil. Is a very countryside and a very farm region. But I really didn't like there. So since I was a little child, I was in love with big cities. So when I was able to move, I moved to Sao Paulo and I stayed here for 10 years before I went to Chicago to study at Kellogg. So I think this is an interesting fact. And of course, I use a little bit of this story to explain how did I overcame a lot of challenge so I could be in Sao Paulo working in the PR field, and then how I was able to study and build stories, leadership stories, so I could apply for MBA. And I think I was the only PR person studying at Kellogg in my current year.
Wow.
So I think it was this is a little bit interesting to know, and I think people that are interested in applying, but they don't come from consulting or for banking or for very traditional fields. I think it's interesting to know that if you are not, you can also apply, and I'm pretty sure you are going to have an amazing experience as well.
Wow, yeah, that's actually very nice. I mean, to know that you were the only one in PR in your class, and that's something that a lot of students have a misconception about. They think that, to do an MBA, you only need to be in finance or business, and it's not. They always look for diversity.
That's right. I have, I think, 3 or 4 journalists in my class. We have a priest. We also have a lot of people that were in the army before, especially in U.S. That's quite common in the MBAs. So Kellogg, especially, I cannot talk about other schools, but we have a lot of people with very different backgrounds.
Wow. A priest, huh?
Yeah, a priest.
I mean, I think case studies with the priest would be exciting.
Yeah. I never had a class with him. Actually, I had a class, but we were never in the same group together. And every time he would bring a very different perspective on issues that we were discussing. And I think it was interesting because we were also able to discuss moral issues, ethics, and I think it's really important for future leaders to have this kind of discussion.
Yes, I agree with you completely on that. And well, before we get started and really dig into these stories, we start off the interview always with a motivational quote that you live by. Do you have one for us?
I believe it's not exactly a quote, but I believe you need to be persistent, but not blind. So you also need to be flexible. And sometimes when you try really hard to achieve something, for some reason this is not happening, you also need to look around and find another option. So every time that I'm facing some challenge, I tell myself, be persistent, but also be flexible and be open to other opportunities that will also enrich your life.
Oh, yes, yes. I totally agree with you. You must be persistent, but also be flexible enough so that you can pivot, you can change depending according to, the immediate needs of your current situation. Now let's talk about the time before your MBA program, during that application process. What were your main challenges, both emotionally and psychologically, or, whether it was proficiency tests, what was the hardest part of the application process for you? And how'd you deal with it?
Oh, GMAT, I think, was the hardest part for me, especially because of my background. All the English part, I was good, but all the math, I was really bad at it. And I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate. So I started studying in the middle of 2011. But then I had like a specific job that I need to do that consume days and nights. So I had to stop. So I stopped for 2 months and then I came back to study in September. I did my first exam in the end of November and my final grade was really, really bad. So yeah, I cried a lot. I didn't expect that I would cry a lot, but I did, and I really thought that okay, I'm not going to make it. This is so hard, but then after this first setback, I fought again, and I was like, no, I'm doing it, and I'm going to do 30 days from now. So I scheduled my GMAT for December 28th. As you already told, I'm from Brazil, and here in Brazil, New Year's Eve is a big party. Nobody works in the last week of the year. So I was the only one among my friends. I was the only one still in town at December 28th to take my second GMAT. And I realized that I had two main issues. I think the first one is that because I was only studying math, I was not practicing a lot the full exam. So I ran out of time in my first exam. And my second problem was that I was nervous about it. So I decided I had to relax. So I have to confess that I drank a beer before my second GMAT.
Okay.
To relax, but of course not a lot, only one.
Right.
So I went there and I did the exam again, and my grade was not the best. I can tell people because I think this also helps people to see that you don't need to be like to take 700 ish to be accepted. My GMAT was 660. So by the time, and the good thing about GMAT is that at least you have the information right after you take the test, so you can act on it really fast. So when I got my grade, I was like, oh, I'm still in doubt if I should apply with this or if I should try next year. But I was really tired of studying, and I had a consultant at that time that was helping me during the process. And I asked him, and he was like, if you were a guy and if you were an engineer, I would tell you that you should do it again. But since you are a girl from Latin America, my undergrad is journalism. I had good stories to tell how I did my career shift from journalism to PR and what are my future plans after my MBA. So I decided to apply with the 660. And then I also decided I would wait one more year. So I applied in the end of 2012 for the class of 2013. And then in the beginning, I was planning to apply for 4 or 5 schools, but then I decided I really want to go. So I would try more options. I would try to have more options. So I applied for 9 programs, and this is I don't recommend that to anybody. I think nine
It's a lot of work.
programs yeah, exactly. It's a lot of work, and actually, I think it's really important to try to understand what are the values and what is the environment of the school you were applying for. And it's really hard to understand, to have a deep understanding of 9 programs, 9 schools. So I don't recommend that to anybody. I wouldn't do it. And I actually I apply for schools that I don't think they have the right fit for me. For example, Berkeley, I think is a very good school, but it's not exactly the right fit. They have a very specific. It's a very small class, and average math is higher, and like the background of the students is different from Kellogg or Ross, two schools that I was accepted. So I would try to reduce this number to 5 and really dedicate more time to these schools than I dedicated to the 9.
Wow. Okay. So thanks. I mean, you've touched on a lot of topics there about crying after your first GMAT. That's actually a very normal response to a lower score. I've actually seen guys cry. So I'm not going to name off any names, but if you're listening, you know who I'm talking about. But I like how that soon after you got right back up, you decided, look, I'm going to go for it anyway, and then you're right. On December 28th, right after Christmas, a few days before New Year's. I mean, that's the most, it's the week where nobody really works. And that's, partly dedication. I like how that you've made yourself available to go for it again. As for the beer before your test, I think that's valid. I've actually I usually drink beer before a test, but I don't tell my students that because, I don't want to encourage.
Me neither. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Guinness beer.
What works? You got to do what works for you, right? You have to do what works for you. And beer worked for you. Beer worked for me. I don't think it's gonna help everybody, but
Yeah, and don't get drunk.
you don't want to get drunk. I mean, but the important thing here, I think, is that what you said was, your GMAT is not the deal killer for the schools. I mean, even if you have a lower score, it's okay. Just go ahead and apply. And depending on your story and your diversity, that will also help you. They look at your overall application. And, and the final thing that you touched on here that I think is very interesting is the fact that you applied to 9 schools and you shouldn't. And I think this is some great advice to a lot of students. Many students think the more I apply to, the better, but actually it works against you. You don't have enough time to really focus on the schools that you have the fit with, right?
Yeah, and the essays, I remember pretty well about my Columbia essay. I was not accepted there. After I was already accepted into 4 programs, I gave a look at it and I was like, oh, this is so bad. I was basically talking about New York and how I would love to live in New York because I'm a big fan of big cities, and that really doesn't work. So you need to really try to understand really well the school. And the 2 schools, I was accepted: Ross, University of Michigan, Kellogg, INSEAD, and also at Stanford. But Stanford has this 1-year program that I was interested in, so I was accepted there. And all these schools, except for INSEAD, I visit. So I had an experience there. And Kellogg and Ross, I went there twice because I was traveling to US because of my work, and I was able to go there, and I did the interviews there as well. So I think that really helped to build my case, those schools, and that I was really, really interested in those schools because I think, these schools are also worried to make you an offer and then you decide to go to other schools. They have this ratio of conversion. This is also important from them. So they want to know that you understand that you were really into going there.
Yeah. There was a question that I wanted to ask you. You talked about the Columbia essay where you were talking about wanting to go to New York because, it's such an amazing city, and that didn't work. What do you think worked for you as far as, why you want to be at a certain school?
I think first there is a fit. So I think my essays, they were more real when I was writing for those schools. I will give you an example, not Kellogg example, but INSEAD, for example. I think I had a real fit with the school. And before I wrote the essays, I talked to a lot of former students. So I have a lot of information. Although I didn't visit, I had a lot of information about the school, about how international was the school, and they really require you to have international experience and to be good at dealing with other cultures. So I had worked in New York before, not exactly in New York, but with clients in New York. I have worked with clients in France, in Singapore. So I think that really count a lot for that essay. And INSEAD also has two interviews. So I think they are able to know you quite well before they make you an offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really helped. Like first, natural fit between you and the school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I visited Kellogg and Ross, I really felt I was at home,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that somehow was reflected in my essays. The second is like those schools that I was accepted. I visit twice. I visit Stanford. I talked to a lot of people from INSEAD, so I have a lot of information that I could use in my essays to explain who I was and why I want to apply. And I was applying for those schools, but I don't think there is a recipe. And I'm in contact with admissions a lot at Kellogg, and they don't tell you what are exactly the criteria and how you get
It's
into
very,
there. But I think it's a mix of fit, getting to know really well the school and the students and the professors if you can. And also, I know that the schools, they want to have some diversity. So you also need to count on some like luck.
yeah.
I think basically that these are the things that helped me through the process.
Yeah, it's really a mix of the ingredients, that make up your entire candidate, strengthens your candidacy there. But you're right about the admissions, it's so hard to extract information from them. They're very tight-lipped and secretive about, giving up some application information. But I get the feeling that Ross and Kellogg were your top two choices. And my curiosity is, in the end, how did you know that Kellogg was the right school of choice for you? I mean, what was that? What was it about Kellogg that made you go, this is it. This is where I need to be.
In the beginning, when I applied, I was in doubt if I want to do 1 year or 2 years. So that's why I applied to INSEAD. And I have to tell you that I didn't know that Kellogg offer a 1 year program. So I applied for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Stanford was also 1 year. When I applied, I was thinking that I would come back to the company that I was working before. I have a career plan. I would be probably the CEO of the company, is a PR agency. So 1 year would make a lot of sense. I didn't need 2 years because I was not doing a career shift. But then when I applied and I was accepted, I was like, oh, okay, since I'm going, I might go for 2 years and explore other areas of interest, other professions that I'm interested in. So when I decided that, okay, now it's 2 years, I was between Ross and Kellogg. And since I was working with communication before Kellogg, I was like, oh, maybe one of my biggest areas of interest is marketing. And Kellogg has a big name.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an easy choice. And also received the phone call. This is the best part of the application process. I have our listeners that when you receive like the phone call telling you that you were accepted is amazing. It's the best sensation ever. So when I received the phone call from Kellogg, a lot of Kellogg students, they were here in Brazil because they were doing the gene program. That's basically, they were here for 2 weeks here in Colombia to visit companies, to talk to CEOs and to understand better how the country works. And I had a friend that was in this trip. So I went out with them almost every day. So it was amazing when I received the phone call. I was having dinner and going to bars with them for 4 days, and they were all expecting me to get this phone call.
Uh-huh.
And I really felt at home when I was with them. So it was really easy to choose Kellogg because I was like, oh, I love these people. I would love to study with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I received the phone call and we went to a bar to celebrate with my friends and with my future Kellogg friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is no, I didn't have any doubt. And Kellogg was my last offer. I had a Ross first,
Mm-hmm.
and I think even the Ross phone call was the best because it was the first, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, now I know that I'm going.
Yeah.
Now it's only a matter to see if I'm really going to Michigan or not." And then I had INSEAD and Stanford in the same week. And then 2 weeks after that, I had Kellogg. So it was not a very hard choice. And now that I'm there, I'm pretty sure that I did the right choice.
Yeah.
It is a school that people are very chill. You have a lot of different backgrounds. Everything that you do is in a group, and I think this is really the way that I like to work. So I'm really happy.
Nice. Well, I mean, was this the second time that you cried then through your application process when you received the phone call?
I think I cried in the first phone call. I think Ross was more like, now I'm going, because I knew that I had good chances, but also you never know. And I have friends that even if I hired GMAT and amazing stories, they were not accepted. So I was like, you never know if you are going to succeed. So I think the first phone call was the one that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe now my dream is coming true and I'm going.
Yeah, it took the weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, and I didn't have the weight in my shoulders anymore, so I think even the interview was better.
Yeah, nice. It does help. It does help when you don't have that stress and that anxiety. So, but what do you absolutely love about Kellogg then? I mean, can you tell us like what is it? I mean, yes, like you have great friends, the diversity, but if there's like one thing that you would say is the most distinguishable feature of Kellogg, what would it be?
I would say people. I think the students are really they're smart, but they're very humble as well,
Hmm.
and they're really willing to share their knowledge and help you through a problem. And every time that I need, when I was doing, for example, recruiting process, and I need help from second years or even from first years that were working in marketing before, they would answer me really fast and help me. Even the alumni, they were also the same. I talked to a couple of alumni about the companies that they were working for, and they really reply very fast. And I was like, oh, I think this is the most valuable thing I will take from my MBA are my friends, and of course my closest friends, but also all this network of amazing people.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad that you touched on that subject with the recruiting process. A lot of students they think, the hardest part of the MBA journey is the application, which for most part it is true. After you are accepted, though, you get also you're hit with another challenge, which is finding an apartment, getting all the paperwork ready to go, and then once you're there, you're enjoying this experience, but a lot of times, that question pops up. What am I going to do with this in the future? What can how will I aggregate this experience into my career? And one of those ways is through a recruitment process. Could you tell us about this? Explain to us about this recruitment process and how it was for you?
Yeah, of course, I can share my experience. When I started Kellogg, I moved in July because Kellogg offers, and I think other schools they offer similar programs. This American culture in English for foreigners. So I started doing that in July, and I really recommend people, especially internationals, that they should move a couple of weeks before school starts. I'm not saying that you should do a program like that, but for sure you need at least I think 2 weeks to be there 2 weeks before school starts so you can organize everything because it can be a pain in the ass because you have like especially for internationals because they don't have the social security number.
Mm-hmm.
You need to pay deposits. It's a little bit it's a hassle, but it's fine. So be there 2 weeks before. So I start in September, and then by I think by October, all the companies were already going to the school to do networking events.
Mm-hmm.
The recruiting season at Kellogg starts in January, but during the fall quarter, the companies go there, they do presentations about the company, about the initiatives, and it's really important time for you to do all the networking, especially if you are recruiting for consulting and for banking. The networking is really a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, I was working as PR consultant. Networking is always important. So even if you're not recruiting for those fields, try to go to the events, And it's very interesting, even if you're not super sure that you want to do, I want to work in marketing or I want to do in consulting. Try to go to a couple of events and understand how it is to work there, and talk to students and to alumni to understand how is the daily routine, the companies that you are applying for. But this is fall, and I was really in doubt because, as I told you in the beginning, I was thinking I was not sure if I was doing a career shift. But then when I got there and I saw all the options that I had, I was like, oh my God, I want to work to all those companies, and I want to do everything. So I considered consulting, I considered banking, and then I end up at marketing. And fall is kind of you're having a lot of fun, but it's also hard because the environment changed, and you have to study, and you have a lot of events. You're meeting, I don't know, 5 or 6 different people per day, so it's a little bit overwhelming. And you know that you have to decide what you are going to apply in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So after going to company's presentation, talking to people, I decided I would recruit for marketing, and I would use my summer internship to explore other areas. So when I was back in January, I started recruiting for marketing. And what also helped me is like the schools, the students, they organize MBA Brazilian Fair in New York in the end of October.
Mm-hmm.
And some Brazilian companies went there to recruit. I started a process with J&J. By I think first or second week of January, I had already done 2 or 3 or 4 interviews, and I had an offer from them. So again, as when I was doing when I was applying for the schools, it really helped me to have Ross offer before the others.
Yeah.
Again, it happens again to me during the recruiting process because I had this offer in the beginning of the recruiting season. It's not like the project was very cool, but it's not exactly what I wanted to do. I applied to other companies, and by then I chose to come back to Brazil to work for BRF, which is the biggest processed food company here in Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest poultry exporter in the world. So I decided to work for them because the project was in marketing, but it was also related to the brands. It's not exactly a brand manager position, but I'm working on a project that will be part of the brand's positioning. So I ended up choosing them because of the projects, and also because I really believe that the company is facing a lot of challenge right now, and I want to be part of it.
What kind of tips can you give to our listeners about the recruitment process in trying to stand out as much as possible for these companies?
Networking is important.
Mm-hmm.
So try to first read everything you can about the company. If they are going on campus, not all the companies go on campus. So sometimes you will have to go out and search for them. The school will support you, but I think it all depends on how much effort you are putting into it. So I have one example, a couple of friends, they were studying at Ross. And 4 of them, they really want to work their summer internship in private equity funds. And private equity funds, usually they don't go to recruiting schools. And maybe they go in Wharton or New York, where you have schools that are more well known because of finance. So they decided that they would get together, and everybody would know somebody that would know somebody. All of them got their jobs in private equity funds, doing all this networking, and like because they were in 4 people, they were able to connect and to get connections in very different private equity funds. So I think this really helps try to find people that work for the company. One of the companies that I applied, I think I talked to, I don't know, 8 people besides the people that I did the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
A funny fact about that is that I had 4 of my friends were also applying for this company, and they had the first phase was a business case, and we all did the business case in the same week. And in the next week, all of them got a phone call telling them that they went to the second phase. And I didn't get the phone call, and this is the second time that I cried, or
The third time.
the third, yeah. And I was like, okay, I was not accepted. And by the time, it was like one of my favorite companies. I was really sad and I cried. I was like, oh, I didn't get the offer. But I start I had written to a lot of people that I was working there. So they start to answer me back. So for almost 2 weeks, I think once or twice per week, I was talking to people who were working there, and all my friends were telling me, "Why are you still doing that?" Like because they never replied. So I was like, "Oh, you never know. Maybe I will talk to so many people, and you see that I'm super interested, that I have the cultural fit with the company, and they will call me."
Yeah, your persistence paid off there.
Yeah, the persistent really, really, yeah, really. Because after 2 weeks, I finally got an email telling me that I moved to the next round.
Nice.
So I don't know. When I asked them, they said that no, they never. Um, if I didn't get a no, it means that they were trying to find out who I was going to do my next interview with.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think you need to be really persistent, talk to a lot of people. I think cultural fit is very important. And the two companies that in the end I was in doubt which offer I would accept, I really believe I had a cultural fit with them. They really value initiative, entrepreneurship. It's not a very, very bureaucratic or like company, not very structured. So like they have no office, so they are very similar. And I think cultural fit is important. And they also want to know not only what you were learning there, but also what you were doing before and how you can apply what you learned, even though you were doing a very completely different thing that you were doing now. So I have one friend at Kellogg that he was federal police in Brazil.
Oh, really?
So I know that one of the things that he worked on was to show how he could use what he had acquired by being a federal police, I think for more than 10 years. I think he's 32. So how he could apply to other areas. So now he's working at Visa in San Francisco. It's an awesome job. So
Yes.
this is other. So I think there are three things. So basically, cultural fits. Try to understand if you fit with that company. But of course, you have 3 months to test that if you are accepted and you accept the offer. But cultural fit is important. How you are going to apply the knowledge that you are getting from this business school, but also um, from your past experience to the job, and persistence. I
Persistence.
think they really like when you show that you were really, really interested in the company.
Yes, yes, they do. And that goes the same for the schools as well. So, I mean, it's never a no until they say no, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
never.
I don't know how to, but basically, when you were in a soccer match, although I don't think we should talk about soccer, what
Yeah.
happened to Brazil in the World Cup, but the game will only end when the how to say the judge
The referee.
the referee ended. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's never until the. Not, yeah, it depends, right? Unless you're losing pretty badly by the first half.
yeah.
But yeah, we can move on from there and learn from our mistakes. And I want to kind of go deeper into like your MBA experience. You know, what's a typical day for you like there at Kellogg?
So basically, I like to have classes at 8:30
Mm-hmm.
a.m. So I don't, because if I have classes only in the afternoon, there is a huge risk that I'm going to wake up at 10 and I won't enjoy my day properly. So I usually, because I don't know if everybody knows, but you choose your schedule basically. So you have some classes that are mandatory that you need to take, and especially I think in the fall there are three, and in the winter two, and then in spring one.
Mm-hmm.
But usually you can, most of them you can pick your schedule when you want to take that class. So a typical day for me is like I wake up, I go to school at 8:30. I try to block my classes, so it's one is usually the classes are 1 hour and 30 minutes, or you can also choose to take evening classes, and then the class will last 3 hours. I found out that I'm not a big fan of night classes, so usually I prefer to take my classes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, but I like to have my evening free to go to the gym and also to hang out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically a typical day for me. I would go to the school, probably try to block my classes and do 2 classes in the morning, and then I use the afternoon to study or to do group meetings. We have a lot of group meetings at Kellogg, and so you need to block some time in your calendar for that. Then I'll be back to my place around 5, go to the gym, and probably have a dinner or a party with friends after it. So this is a typical day at Kellogg. This during spring because it's the most recent. But when you are in the winter, you need to you dedicate a lot of your time to the recruiting. So you have. I don't believe you have a lot of company events only in the beginning of the winter, but there is also a big marketing conference in January. So it all depends the period that you are, the quarter. And in the fall, as I already told you, it was very, very busy because you have a lot of company events. You are meeting a lot of new people. So a typical day in the beginning of the MBA would be you have more mandatory classes, and there is one that everybody your session does together. So it would be more like easier, not only because you have a lot of things to do, but also because it's everything is new and you are trying to realize how you're going to manage your time. So in the beginning, it's more common to have like a group meeting that will last 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
In the spring, you are much more like focused and you do 1 hour the most because now you already realize how things work. But I think basically that is a typical day I go to school. During lunch break, all the clubs, I don't know how many clubs Kellogg has, but I think we have more than 30 clubs. The clubs host lectures or workshops, and you can go from come to understand how American football works uh, to a big presentation with, I don't know, all the team of Procter and Gamble, all the digital marketing team of Procter and Gamble. So usually I will try to be there during lunch so I can go to these lectures and workshops.
Yeah, so I mean, there are many clubs there, and are you part of any of them?
I'm part of the Global Affairs, that is part of the KSA, that is the Kellogg Students Association. And basically, what we do is like how to foster intercultural exchange and how to show how has Kellogg has people from all the nationalities. So we work to improve, especially the international experience, and also to make the Americans like know better other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also part of the Latin America Club, and basically we organize events from about our business culture and also a lot of social events. For example, the Carnival Party. You also have a big contest at Kellogg where all the countries they will prepare their own food, their traditional food, and you need to sell tickets. And the country that sells the most will win an award. So and it's amazing because you can try all different foods in like one afternoon. And
Yeah.
so all this every Friday at Kellogg we had a happy hour, and each Friday is a different team. So sometimes it's like, oh, the Kellogg football club we organize, so we'll have something there that is related to football. Or I was also part in the last year. I was also part of the media club, so we did this Oscar night with Oscar team. We showed videos, films, and movies there, and you can drink beer inside the school. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. That sounds very fun, very entertaining, and a lot of activities.
Yeah, it's very busy, but I think you will get from Kellogg what you put into it. So if you don't want to do it, like, oh, okay, I just want to go to the classes and I don't want to be involved in all these social activities, you can also do it. And I think this is really important for people to know because I talked to some people and they had this idea, oh, I'm not a social person, so I should not go to Kellogg. And I have to say, if you are not a very social person, You have like other clubs that you can be part of it that are not that social, and I'm pretty sure you have an amazing experience as well.
Right, right. And that all goes to with, the fact that once you are there, it's just the environment itself kind of draws you in. I mean, even if you aren't, I know some introverted people who have gone to Kellogg, and just the environment just causes you to want to be take part of the community and to be active. So it's interesting because I see people who resist, who want to just kind of focus on their own thing, but end up making some lifelong friends at Kellogg, and that's something very admirable to see.
Yeah, no, that's true. And also, you also have some families. So there are some students that they move there with wife or husbands or
Hmm.
kids, and they also enjoy a lot because Kellogg is not exactly in Chicago; is in Evanston. It's about 20-30 minutes from Chicago. So if you have a family, it's a very good like city to raise your kids for a while. A lot of like parks, a lot of activities for the children. So you can also go there with your family, and it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I have a quick question here. What's your favorite restaurant there off campus?
Off campus,
Yeah.
oh, I like a couple of them. I don't have my favorite. Although I eat a lot of Japanese food, but now
Hmm.
I cannot remember the name of the Japanese restaurant that I go every week.
Hmm.
So this one would be my favorite one, but I just forgot the name. So I don't know. There is another one that is called Found that is very good, but I don't. The Japanese one is the one that I go every week, but now I've been in Sao Paulo for a month and I cannot remember the name. Sorry.
Uh, so yeah, you're going to have to remember once you get back.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, I have one last question for you, and this is a quirky one. If you had a time machine and you could go back to, when you were applying or a little bit after you were accepted, anytime in that range, is there something you would have done differently?
I think, as I already told, I would not apply for 9 schools. And
Yes.
this is the most important learning. Like, try to be focused, and this is also for life. And also, like, and I can tell you the same. When I was during fall thinking about recruiting, at some point I thought that I should maybe apply for different positions, maybe also include consulting, not only marketing. But then I remember that I should be focused and not make the same mistake that I did when I was applying.
Yeah.
I think this is the most important learning. Like, and also about the GMAT, I think the most important thing is to really practice the mock exams. So try to do as many as you can because I think that will make a lot of difference when you are doing the real test.
Yes, yes. I second that as well. The more practice you get for both the GMAT and the TOEFL, the better you will get at it. And, it's not just like, oh, I think I know everything in theory, and then you show up and you're going to get a good grade. Some people are lucky, but most of us have to really work hard for it and take it a couple of times. So
Yeah.
you're right on that one.
Yeah, and don't give up, right?
Yeah, don't ever give up. You may cry. You can cry. It's okay.
There were some times that I thought that I would give up. Like, oh, I'm already. I like I'm doing. Maybe I should stay here and not go. And really, it's I don't know. I think it's going. It is already the best experience I ever had in my life. So
Hmm.
really persist and try, take the exams, the test again if you need it. And I have one of my friends, he applied 2 times to Stanford, and he really, twice to Stanford. He really wants to go there. And his best friend was accepted. And he wasn't. So after the second time, he decided that he should change his plans, and he applied to INSEAD. He went to INSEAD, and he was really, really happy. And he also says that don't give up. And if you were, this is my dream school, try really hard. But after some time, after a while, if you are not accepted, try to consider other options. And I'm pretty sure you are going to be happy in other schools as well.
Yes, very true. Andrea, I just want to thank you so much for, making your time available for us, and to also providing this interview, and just, your great experience, your challenges, and persisting through. I'm just going to let the listeners know here that you can connect with Andrea on LinkedIn. I'll have that up on the website. And would you like to add one final thing? You want to give a shout out to somebody, anything you'd like before we sign off?
I think we cover every aspect of the MBA journey. And I really want to tell people, if you have any specific doubt and want to write me, using my LinkedIn profile, you can write me there, because I think it's a very personal choice, and you need to be really willing to have a different, not only professional experience, but also personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any question, any doubt, and you wanna ask me and talk to me, you can write me, and I will certainly reply.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, citizens of the Wire, there you have it. You can connect with Andrea once again through the LinkedIn hyperlink I will include in her interview on the website. Also, if you can, take a few minutes, send me your feedback and questions at www.thembawire.com. This is Mateo Chang signing off. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode of the MBA Wire.
Thanks for tuning into the MBA Wire. Would you like to know more? Visit us online at thembawire.com today and leave your questions and feedback. While you're there, sign up for an exclusive free audio series to help you strengthen your MBA interview. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the MBA Wire.